All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ask the Nanny. I apologize for our lateness. We had some technical difficulties, and one of our panelists will try to make it on because she's having some technical difficulties. So if you see someone else pop up on the screen, she's joining our discussion. I'm going to turn my Facebook Live on my phone so I can see your questions. And here we go. Hi, Emily. Hi, Deidre. How are you? And also, tonight we have two nannies that are going to be sharing their experiences with us. Our topic for tonight is sensory processing disorder. Now, a lot of us personally have this and we just don't realize it, but we do. I know I do. But we as nannies, we are not therapists. We are not doctors. We are here to share our experience with you about sensory processing disorder. Now, I'm going to have my panelists introduce themselves. We're going to start with Sarah since she's right next to me, and then I'll have Carrie to introduce herself. Tell us a little bit about yourself outside of the nanny world first, and then tell us what you do.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I live in the Boston area. I have lived here most of my life. I ventured outside for a couple of years and came back because I missed it. I have 9 parrots, and I love to sew and bake and cook. And I've been a nanny for just hit 22 years last month, and I have worked with 78 children of varying degrees of everything.
Wow.
Miss Carrie.
Okay. My name is Carrie and I am from Canada. I am Canadian and I love to knit. I love to crochet. I like art, so I like being creative. I am a nanny to right now to an autistic teenager. And so it's kind of special needs. But I've been in childcare, I want to say 13 years, 13 years. Been doing nannying, like I do babysitting, but I also do nannying, and I do know there's a difference. I've done both, so.
Thank you for clarifying that because
Yes.
a lot of people don't know that.
No, I have done both.
I think we've all three of us have done both.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, there is a distinct
Yes.
difference between the two. So, hello to Jamie and Emily and Kimberly and Bonita and Stacy. Let's see who else. Oh, hi, Mary. Now, down to business. Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about, as I said, sensory processing disorder. I have worked with several children, including one of my own, who had some sort of sensory processing. I have a sensory issue with cotton shirts, like not the polos, but the Oxford shirts, the button up shirts.
Yep.
For some reason, it just, I don't know, it overheats my body and I just sweat. I can put on another shirt that's cotton, nothing. Those types of shirts, I don't know what it is in the materials. My body's just sensitive to it. And I'm just like, okay, get me out of this shirt. I'm about to burn up. And to me, that's a problem. And I know it's just those type. And I have tried a lot of different brands of those types of shirt. I don't know why it is. It's just that type of shirt. My own son, he has a problem with his food touching. He has this, and he eats one thing at a time. He doesn't blend his foods, like Thanksgiving. Who doesn't eat turkey and dressing at the same time?
Your son.
Exactly. You eat a little cranberry sauce, you eat a little turkey, you eat a little dressing, all, and then some bread all up in there. And the combination to me is wonderful. But it was one thing at a time. I even had to go so far as when he was a child to buy those, those lunch trays that has the sections. I had to section off his food because if it was on a
Yeah.
regular plate and it slid, oh, it was problems. It was
Mhm.
the world was ending.
Yep.
So it takes a special person to recognize these sensory issues. And it's not just
Mhm.
with food and with clothes. There are other things that, textures on the tongue. I
Yep.
know some things I can't stand. They just kind of make me gag. Yeah, that. So we
Mhm.
all have a sensory. It's not that the food tastes bad.
We
It's
all
just
have
that,
sensitivities to certain things, certain
yes,
textures, certain
Mhm.
certain things.
yes.
Yep.
So we'll start with Sarah. Tell us about some of your experiences that you've had with either your own, but especially with children that have had like those sensory issues. Because I know you work with a lot of special needs children.
I do. I work with mostly special needs children at this point. So I have worked with a few different kids who have had different texture, fabric, um, feeling sensitivities. I've had a couple that were fully diagnosed with sensory processing disorder by, healthcare professionals that are professionally, legally allowed to do that. And, I noticed things weren't quite right when at one point, like one of the boys, oatmeal was his favorite food as a baby. And then he hit like 1.5, like oatmeal, regular oatmeal. He was 1 year old. He was having regular, Quaker oatmeal type of deal. And then all of a sudden, around 1.5, you would put the spoon of oatmeal in his mouth, or he would put the spoon of oatmeal in his mouth. And immediately he had a major gag reflex, like he couldn't keep it in his mouth. And we would, try it again and again. Every couple weeks, we'd go back to it, and we knew that something wasn't quite right. And then he started getting that way about mashed potatoes and other similarly textured items. So he couldn't do applesauce, he couldn't do mashed potatoes, he couldn't do oatmeal. So those were his big triggers. But you just know sometimes that something's not quite right. And hey, can you
Hmm.
maybe talk to the pediatrician about having him evaluated? Because these things used to be his favorite foods, and now he can't even eat them.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Miss Carrie, what about you? What have you
Well,
experienced?
for me personally, I can relate to the oatmeal thing because I've never liked oatmeal. I have tried to like oatmeal, and the consistency is just blah.
I
Even if you
love
put
oatmeal.
sugar,
I love
I
oatmeal.
I
I
like
love
oatmeal, but porridge oatmeal, I
Yeah.
can't stand it.
it. Okay,
I
so
can
I've
have
never had
apple,
porridge oatmeal. What is the consistency of porridge oatmeal? What's the difference
like
between?
oatmeal, like I can have oatmeal cookies. I can have
Okay.
oatmeal like on Apple Brown Betty. Like I can have oatmeal, but like the consistency of porridge, like oatmeal is just it
Like
looks
as
gross.
as a cereal,
Yeah,
the
it
oatmeal
looks gross.
Oh,
It
okay.
as a hot
tastes gross.
cereal.
Oh my gosh, I
Like
love it. I had some this morning.
Yep.
I wish I liked it, but I don't. It's just
Right.
there.
So what about some of the children that you have worked with? What are some
Um,
things that you have noticed with them?
yeah, so I work with right now I nanny for an autistic teenager. So he eats the same thing every single day. Every single day. And like it's hot dogs, it's pasta, it's pizza. Like that's his just a rotating cycle. He doesn't eat anything else. And it's just like he eats chips and ginger ale with every single meal, and I'm like, and he's not that fat either. I'm like, this isn't fair. Like
Exactly.
he can eat junk food, and like I asked him, do you want something else? No, like he wants the exact same thing every day, like cereal every morning. And I asked his parents about it, and they're like, yeah, he won't eat anything else. He doesn't like consistency. He doesn't like certain swallowing. Like to swallow, I guess, is
Mhm.
difficult for some foods as well. Like they'll be making like salads. I have never seen him eat a salad. Never.
Oh.
Never seen him eat a salad. He will eat vegetables, but like I said, mainly pizza, hot dogs, pasta. Like, I have never seen him eat vegetables.
Wow.
Yeah.
I work with a child who ate chicken nuggets, fries, raisin toast, and it had to be toasted. It could not just be raisin bread. It had to be toasted, and it had to
Yep.
have peanut butter on it.
Yep.
That was it. That was his staple. That was it.
Yep.
One day, I was eating, what was I eating? I was eating a cookie, and he looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, I said, "You want some?" And he looked at it, and he took it, and he nibbled it, and he was like, so,
Yeah.
and then I kept eating, and he looked at it again. I said, "Would you like to try it again?" So he tried it again, and that time he ate some, and I was like, "Okay." I said, "Now let's see if we can get you these raisins," because he did not like the texture of raisins on his
Yeah.
tongue. So
Yeah.
I started eating the raisins, and I said, "You want some?" And he looked at me. I gave him one. He put it on his tongue, and he swirled it around in his mouth. That's the most we had at that point. We had gotten him to
Yeah.
put it in his mouth, just to put it in his mouth. He would put it on his tongue and then spit it out. But he actually put it in his mouth,
Yeah.
and it was swirled around. And I don't know if it was because we were not at home. We were in a different atmosphere. We were out.
Mhm.
Actually, we were people watching on the sidewalk. We were sitting
Yeah.
on the bench in the sidewalk. So
Yeah.
we were watching other people, and I'm just sitting here, and I'm trying. My object was to get him to eat the raisins, not the cookie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I started with the cookie because I thought, well, maybe he'll eat the sweetness. He liked it, So, and I know, that's probably bad practice, and I know everybody's gonna slash, but that's okay.
Yeah. Just.
But so he swirled it around in his mouth, and I started chewing. I said, "This is so good. I love, love, love these. Oh, I'm gonna eat some more." And he kept looking at me, and I just kept eating and kept eating. And he reached over and grabbed the box, and I'm like, "Okay, does he still have the raisin in his mouth?" Because I didn't see him chew or swallow.
Yeah.
And he picks one out of the box and puts it in his mouth, and he starts chewing. And I said, "Can I have some?" He took one out of the box, gave it to me, and then it was like this with the box, like, "This is mine." So he started eating the raisins. I took a picture, and then I said, and I said, "No, that's not going to work because Mom's not going to believe it just with a picture." So I took a video of him taking the raisins out of the box, eating them, sharing with me. It was like a 3-minute video, and I had to email it to her because it was so long. She called me crying. She said, "How in the world did you get him to do that?" I said, "I don't even know. I just know that
I
it
just
worked."
ate them and told them they were good.
Yeah.
I said, "I don't even know." I said, she said, "Well, can you do it with mandarin oranges and some other things?" I said, "One thing at a time. Let's get him eating this at a time." She
Mhm.
bought a big box of raisins. He wouldn't eat it out of the big box. She got a small box. He ate the one out of the little box.
Yeah.
But I don't know how I got him to do it, but hey, it worked. And
All the power to you.
his
Right?
his therapist was like, "So tell me about the raisin." I was like, "Oh, I don't know." She said, "We've been trying to get him to eat raisins for the last 6 months, and you come in here, and all of a sudden he's eating raisins." And I'm like, "I don't know. I've
Yeah.
only been with him for 2 weeks. I don't know." So I'm just trying little tricks and things, little things that I thought would help him, because I know my kids. Anytime I'm eating something, they want it. Any other nanny kid if I'm eating something, they want it. So I figured,
Mhm.
hey, you may have special needs, but you're just like other kids.
Oh yeah.
You see me eating something, you're going to want it.
Oh yeah.
So have either one of you all been to the doctor, or have you been to occupational therapist or a speech therapist with your kids?
All of the
No.
above.
She
All of
has.
the
I
above?
haven't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did they send you home with things, activities to try with the kids, to do with the kids?
So with the one boy that had the issue with the semi-mushy stuff, the mashed potatoes and oatmeal and stuff, he was in speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy. He was in everything. He was a preemie. And they pretty much knew from the get-go that he was going to have some kind of issues with some kind of stuff. So he was actually diagnosed pretty early. He was about 2 when he was diagnosed. And they kind of gave us ideas on, hey, maybe try and make the oatmeal a little thinner and see if he can eat it. Nope. Make it a little thicker, see if he can eat it. Nope. We were given a whole list of different things to try with him, and he got to the point where he couldn't even eat oatmeal cookies because it tasted like the oatmeal that made him sick. Like it literally made him physically ill.
Yeah.
So it was that psychological connotation that this tastes like the stuff that makes me throw up, so I'm not going to eat it. I can't eat it. And he could eat French fries, but he couldn't eat like tater tots. He couldn't eat waffle fries. He couldn't eat any other potato product except French fries because
It has to be a certain French fry.
They tasted enough like mashed potatoes that he could tell that they tasted like the mashed potatoes, and it would literally gag him.
Oh gosh.
So, French fries were just an accident. He stole one off of his mom's plate one day, and he was like, "Num num num num," and she goes, "Oh, do you like that?" He goes, "Yeah." She goes, "You know that's potatoes, right?" He goes, "Doesn't taste like potatoes." And voila, we had French fries. So we would do baked French fries for him, and he would eat them like a dream.
Yeah.
So thank goodness.
Slowly
But
add it.
potatoes aren't a huge staple in the diet anyway, so it was a treat. I'll let him have it.
Yeah.
It was a new thing. It was something he was trying. Hey, go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some comments. Let's see. Emily Carter, hi, says good evening to everyone. And Kimberly Brown says hello. And Kimberly says she couldn't eat things if they touched each other. So that's I didn't realize it, but my son doesn't like peanut butter. All the time that they requested peanut. Him and his brothers, they were like, "We want peanut butter and jelly. We want peanut butter and jelly." I didn't realize that he would take the jelly side and throw the peanut butter side away. But he knew it was like he was afraid to ask for just a jelly sandwich.
Oh.
Yeah.
He said, "Mom, I don't eat peanut butter." I found this out when he was grown.
Yeah.
Grown, as in like 22 years old, grown. And I was just like,
that is too funny.
"You don't eat peanut butter?" I said, "Oh, those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, your brother." And he said, "I never ate the peanut butter side. I was so glad you didn't mix it together."
Oh, I love it.
Some people mix the peanut butter and
The
jelly
truth
together.
comes out now.
The truth comes out now. Yes, he did not like peanut butter. He was just, that was one of his things.
Yeah.
Deidre says bright lights and noises is one of her things that makes her,
Yep.
Yep.
her
Oh,
sensory. Emily Carter High says, my 22-year-old son is high function autistic. He doesn't like milk in his cereal. But milk, I'm allergic to milk, and milk causes mucus to build up in your good Lord.
Yep.
Yeah. So milk is not necessarily as I should say, it's not good for me. I can't put that statement out that it's not good for anybody. It's not good for me. I'll put it like that. Patsy says, hello, ladies. And Sam says oatmeal and smoothies. Now, I don't know if that's going to work.
I've heard of that. I've heard of it.
But if the taste of oatmeal, what would you
Maybe
put?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's
Like
grainy.
oatmeal.
It's grainy. It's still it's the grit and the grain.
Like that.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. If it's in a smooth, what would you put it with it, Sam? You said oatmeal with smoothies. What would you put with the oatmeal in the smoothies to take away that that feeling that when it hits the tongue? What would you put in there? Kim says, good night, ladies. I think
Night.
and she also says, oh, Kimberly Brown says, yes, those were mine. Mushy textures, I cannot do. No oatmeal, no jello, no mushy, none chew foods. Now, I love oatmeal. Jello, I'm not too fond of, but
Actually, my sensory boy loved Jello, so
really,
it's not universal, I swear. That was one of his favorite things was Jello, and he couldn't do the oatmeal, but he loved the Jello.
but I think oatmeal is a different
Oh
texture
yeah, yep.
Well,
than the
it's like
Jello.
cold, right? Like it's like cold and slimy. It's not really
Yes.
like drippy because it doesn't drip, kind of thing. It's
And it
like
doesn't have like it's
It
not
just depends on
glossy.
how thick your
Yeah.
oatmeal is. If
it's
it's
a different
dripping.
texture, and you can make little shapes, right? Like little shapes of, and so kids like it because it's
Yep.
like little dinosaurs and
Oh, yeah.
little.
Okay. Good idea. Sam says hers eats her. I guess her kids eat the same things every day. And Nanny Kim says, "Hey Sarah, E. Brenton, boo boo, and a kiss."
Hi.
Okay. And I guess Sam was responding to you, Carrie, when you said about eating the pizza and everything. She said her kids don't get fat either.
Yep.
And her kiddos eat bacon every day.
Yeah.
Chicken nuggets and fries and
Yep.
bacon. And she also asked, do any of your autistic kiddos get any therapy?
Yes.
Mine does too. So
Mine does too.
yep.
I know mine did. Mine did.
Yeah. Mine does.
Um,
Does, same.
It does same thing. And hello to everyone else who just came in, to Darlene, to Jen, to Abigail, Sandy, Cindy, Rhonda, Serena, Diana, Kyla, Haley, Jessica, Maxine, and Megan. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Now, I have a question. Does textures on the hands and the feet,
Yep.
do they have problems with textures on their hands
Oh
and their feet?
yes.
Oh,
yes. Oh yes. The first time
Okay.
I if I can go. Sorry, I don't know it's
Go
my
ahead,
turn.
go ahead.
The first time I actually met him, when I had the interview, and I had actually met him, and I was just meeting with the parents, and he had just gotten off the bus. He was fully clothed. He came down 5 minutes later in his underwear. And he did that every single day. He doesn't like being in clothing in general. And so he'd just hang out in his underwear, literally. He doesn't like zippers. He doesn't like snaps. He lives and breathes in sweatpants and hoodies.
Yep.
Because
Okay. I
yeah.
was like, what do you all do for clothes? So I'm sitting here, you work with kids, you have a wild imagination.
Oh yeah.
Mine is probably wilder than everybody else's, but I'm
Yeah.
like, how in the world did they get this child anywhere for therapy or anything else with no clothes on?
He lives
So,
he lives
sweats and hoodies.
in sweats.
Okay.
He hasn't worn anything but t-shirts, sweatpants, and he's never worn jeans. I've never seen him wear jeans. It's actually probably the opposite of you. It's like cotton all the way. Nothing else but cotton.
Well, I don't like, it's not that I don't like cotton, it's just that type of shirt.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that type.
I mean, it's like women who have menopause, you understand what I'm talking about. It's like having a personal summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just like, I can't do it. I can put on something that's the same weight and long sleeves and be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Not sweat. And it's something in that type of shirt or whatever it is. And I have tried several different brands.
Yeah.
Of the same type of shirt, and then just, I don't know. And maybe it's a psychological thing because one didn't work. Maybe it's psychological that all doesn't work. So I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
But my body is like, no, get it off.
Yeah.
Don't wear that. So
I
I
also
don't.
know. Yeah, I mean, I also know like he also has a weighted blanket, and like one of those weighted blankets, and like everything is pretty much weighted. So like he's always like covering himself up and like in blankets like all the time. So
Wow.
he likes like the heaviness, I guess, of like
Okay.
blankets or
It
weighted
grounds
blankets.
them. It makes them
Yeah,
feel grounded and
yeah,
like
yeah.
present, more
Yeah,
present
I
than they would
realized that,
otherwise.
and like
Yeah.
sits in absolute like the darkness and the light thing. He will sit in the dark, and I'm like, why aren't you turning a light on? He's like, no, 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 no light, and I'm like, okay, you'll just sit in the dark, like, okay.
I'm
But
sensitive to
yeah,
certain
yeah, the
lights.
blankets were
Do yours have blankets, Sarah?
So the littlest boy that I work with now who has autism, he has I want to say it's called a compression sheet on his bed. So
Mhm,
essentially it's kind of like pressure versus weight because he's still
mhm,
really little. He's only 4. So he's still
yeah,
really little. A weighted blanket might not be ideal for him because he's so small and the
Right.
amount
mhm,
of weight he need would be not significant enough to help him. But
yeah,
that compression sheet has literally gotten him to stay in his bed and not get out of bed 500 times a night. It calms
mhm,
him and it soothes him. That pressure, that proprioceptive input is just exactly what he needs to kind of go and like
yeah,
be able to relax to get into sleep.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have another child that like I have the autistic one, but I also have a young one like yours. And he actually does have a weighted blanket who's 3. But
Yep.
what happened is you can get a weighted blanket based on your weight.
Yep.
So the one for the teenager is like big. It's like probably like a queen size. The one for the 3-year-old, it's about a lovey size. It's basically it's just like a big hug to him, but yet because he doesn't like to be touched, yet he likes his weighted blanket. So
Yeah, so the
it's
touch
kind
thing
of,
is a totally
yeah,
sensory
yeah,
overload.
it's a sensory, yeah. Like the autistic boy doesn't really like touch. The I've been noticing, like not like I'm touchy feely, but like I'm like, okay, that's something to keep in mind.
They like it on their terms. So like
Yeah.
if so the little boy who's autistic, if he initiates a hug, and I
Hmm.
know it's okay to hug him back, but if he doesn't
Yeah.
initiate the hug or he doesn't initiate the touch,
Yeah.
I'll offer you my hand when we're like in a place where you need to hold a hand to be safe. But
Yeah.
otherwise, I'm gonna let you do what you want. If you want to hold my hand is here. If you want to, roam freely in your house, that's fine. Sometimes he literally will walk around the house holding my hand because
Yeah. Oh
that
yeah.
makes him feel comfortable. And sometimes he
Yeah.
wants something to do with me. No, go away, leave me alone. Let me play with my 5,000 different things all at once
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and call it a
Yep.
day.
That's him. Those are the boys I look after too. Just
Yeah.
sort of like leave me be, and like, but the thing is like one of them, he doesn't actually say like leave me alone.
Hmm.
He and I didn't understand it at first. He's like go to sleep, and I'm like go to sleep, and then to him it means go away, but to me I'm like go to sleep. I'm like I'm not tired. He's like go. I'm like oh like go away. Like I'm like what is he trying to, I had to like figure out like what are you trying to tell me, like because also the limited verbal that he has, even though he is verbal, it's kind of it's limited, and so you have to almost like catch the cues
Yep.
as well for that. And
Okay.
so yeah.
And
We have two
I
comments.
would like to
Okay, go
say
ahead.
that autism is not a defining factor of sensory processing
Oh
disorder.
no,
Like
for sure.
I know that we've talked, a couple of our kids have been autistic, but I've actually worked with 2 or 3 other kids who are totally, you know, neurotypical in
Oh yeah,
the
for
sense
sure.
of they're not autistic, they're not on the
Yep.
spectrum.
Yep.
They're considered to be neurotypical, but they have
Yep.
these sensory issues and
For
like
sure. I'm
they
not
can't
saying
handle
that at
certain
all.
things,
Like,
but they're not like, no,
yeah.
I'm just kind of making that statement so that people know that we're not
Okay.
just talking about autistic kids.
Oh, no,
Right,
no, no,
So
no.
right. It's not,
a lot
it's
of my
not,
kids are not autistic.
Yeah.
So
right.
For sure, for sure.
My son is not autistic, but
mhm.
that little sister, I'm not autistic, although my daddy says I probably am a little, have adult ADD. And
Uh-huh.
I'm tended to, sometimes because I never sit still. I'm always busy, 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 busy,
Mhm.
busy. And even when I sleep, my mind is busy, busy, busy.
Yeah,
So
for sure,
it's
for
not
sure.
just autistic children. There are typical, quote unquote,
Yeah.
normal children
Oh yeah.
have
Yep.
sensory issues. There are certain
Yep.
things that they don't like touching their body. They don't
Yep.
like, it's like, there's, I have a phobia. I don't like spiders. I,
Yeah.
I,
Not a
I
fan.
don't like the creepy crawly. I had one on me, ooh, had one on me, and that a phobia is totally different from sensory.
Yeah.
But know,
Yeah, for sure, for
there are
sure.
different things. There are different things that children don't like, even adults don't like,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
they're very sensitive to them.
Yep.
Kimberly says she can do pudding, but no tapioca or rice
Yep.
pudding.
Yep,
And
I agree.
no, and
Me
younger,
too.
and when she was younger, no onions or peppers, but she can do it now. She says, I couldn't swallow pills until I was 27 years old. I agree with you there. It took me a
Me too.
long time to learn how to swallow a pill.
Yep. Yep.
I definitely have sensory issues, some I grew out of with age.
Yeah.
And Deidre says, I like I don't like heavy winter coats.
Yep.
My
Mhm.
old neighbor thought I was poor and could not afford a coat last winter. She offered to buy me one. Oh my
Oh, that's
gosh.
really
Aw.
sweet.
That's sweet of your neighbor, but I
That's cool.
understand.
Yeah.
Liz says, I take care of twins. They are recently diagnosed with SPD. And Deidre says she's not autistic, but she has ADHD and other learning disabilities.
Yep.
Let's see
Mhm.
what else. Liz says
Yeah.
they are her twins are almost 3 years. I'm not a professional, but I knew that something was wrong with the kids. And
When
that's
Mhm.
you're
why
with
we're
a
here,
kid,
because we spend a lot of times with the kids, and we have worked with so many different kids that you can tell when something just not quite right.
Yep.
And
well, and the
by
thing is that
observation,
with me, I've been doing this for a really long time, and I've worked with kids in varying degrees of abilities, disabilities, whatever. And at one point, the one of the boys that I took care of, the mom was like, "Oh no, you just have disability eyes. Like you're just seeing a disability." And then weeks later, he was diagnosed with sensory processing disorder, and I was like,
Mhm.
I knew this. I didn't say what it was. I just said, "Hey, I've noticed these things. Can you talk to the
Mhm.
pediatrician?" And guess what? It was
Yeah.
exactly what I had thought. But, I
Yeah.
don't put a name to anything. I don't say, "Oh, I think your kid's autistic," or, "Oh, I
right,
think your kid has this or that." You don't say that. You just say, "Hey, I've noticed XYZ things that have happened, and I was wondering if it was something that was concerning enough for you to talk to the pediatrician." If the parents
Yeah.
say no, you table it and you bring it up again in maybe 6 months. If it's
Yeah.
something serious, um, like for example, the boy with the mashed potatoes, they literally the food would make him throw up. He got to the
Mhm.
point where he would take a bite and he would literally throw up everything he had eaten. And
Yeah.
I was like, this is something that we need to discuss with the doctor, with the pediatrician, and maybe have him evaluated and see if there is some underlying issue that we maybe don't know yet. And
Mhm.
they took my advice. They talked to the pediatrician. The pediatrician took him for evaluation. We got our diagnosis. So, it was exactly what we needed, but it was brought about because I said, "Hey, I've noticed blah 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 about your child. Have you noticed that, and has it bothered you at all? Is it something that maybe we should talk to the pediatrician about?" And I mean, I'm a very involved nanny. A lot of times I will go to pediatrician appointments, or I am actually the one that has taken the child to out of the house therapies. I am the one that has supervised in-house therapies. So, I've kind of run the gamut of everything in the level of involvement, from being completely hands off to being completely hands on, and
Yeah.
doing the supplemental stuff that the therapists ask the parents and caregivers to do with the kids when they're not there. I do that carryover treatment, so to speak, under their guidance, under their tutelage, so that I'm doing it right and I'm doing everything I can to help the child live as normal a life as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously this is a very important thing to me.
Yeah,
Yes,
for sure.
I mean, it's important to me too, because I have been to the occupational therapist, I have been to the speech therapist, and because I do sign language, I was teaching the child sign language, and he was responding, and he had gotten to the point where he would push his mom and dad to the door, and that was his sign for you all need to leave. And she said, she would call me, she said, Benjamin wants us to leave. Would you come and watch him, please? And I was like, okay. So I would go, and as soon as I get through the door, he starts signing, and I'm like, okay, so what? And he would point to stuff, and I would sign it. And he would point to this, and
Yeah.
point to this, point to this. And it was like he was at a thirst for knowledge because he could finally communicate. He
For
was not
sure.
verbal. So it was like, she said, I don't know why. She said, but I know when he pushes me towards the door, he wants you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was their first outside of family babysitter.
Wow.
And eventually became the part-time nanny because she felt that he had an attachment to me, that he would listen to me and he communicated with me. She didn't know sign language and he started signing, but she was taking him to a speech therapist. And the speech therapist told me to continue with the sign language, to communicate with him. Because the first thing I did when I first saw him, she said he likes to count. So I started counting on my fingers and doing sign language. And he picked up on it. And he was like, I said, you want more? And he was like, and he started going more. So I started counting again, and we counted. We sat there for 20 minutes and counted to 10.
Yep.
And mom was so impressed. She said, he doesn't usually do this with anybody. What is it about you? And I was like, nothing. I didn't do anything. I just picked up on.
Yeah.
I just picked up on what he knew. And it's as a nanny, we pick up on the child's emotions, and we pick up on what they're doing, and we can adjust and adapt ourselves to them so that they feel safe around us.
For sure.
And it's a gift. If you have it, it is a gift. And I know those of us who work with special needs children, it's like second nature, because we can look at that child and say, okay, how do I need to approach this? A couple of questions to mom and dad, and watching and observing the child, and you can pretty much tell, okay, so I need to go around this way and do that, or I need to go over this way and do that, or around this corner and do that. And usually one or two of those three things works, and you're like, gotcha. And I know how to handle this situation at the moment. But there's usually other underlying stuff that's going on that we don't know about, but to put the parents at ease. It's easier for us to handle that and put them at ease, so they will know that we understand your child. We understand how to come to his level and do things his way, and let him lead instead of us. Come on, let's go do this. Come on, let's go do that. You can't do that with certain children. You have to let them be comfortable with you. And it takes a very special person. It takes wonderful nannies like you ladies.
Thank you.
To do that. But what I will say is, when I noticed he loved to chew. And she had these these rubber chew toys, and he loved to bounce. He loved to jump.
Yep.
He would stand in his crib and just hold on to the rail and jump, like those trampolines they make that with the little
With the
circle and
handles,
The
yeah.
little handle,
the
Yeah.
yeah.
handle. He
Yeah.
would stay on there for hours
Yep.
and just jump and jump and jump. And at the time, I happened to have a play group, and I was doing music and movement, and I had it was an 8x8 bounce house, and it was just a square. And I asked his mom, "Can we set it up in the basement?" I
Oh,
brought it
nice.
over. I brought it over one time, and every time I came, he expected me to have that
He
bounce
wanted
house.
that bounce house.
He wanted the bounce house. He jumped and jumped and jumped and jumped and jumped. I would come. She said, "I think you need to come over at 6 o'clock instead of at 7 because his bedtime was at 8. Because after an hour is not enough for him to jump." But he slept better,
Yep.
and through the whole night after jumping in that bounce house.
Yep.
And it was just, I knew he loved to jump. So I asked her, "Could I bring it?" So I brought it, and it was like changed. She went and got one.
Yeah.
So he could jump every night before he went to bed. And she said that's all. It solved his problem for at least a year.
That's nice.
He
Oh, that's
jumped before
great.
he went to
Yeah.
bed, and for about an hour and a half, and he slept through the night. He exhausted himself. But
Wow.
because she fed that need in him, it caused it had a good result.
Yep.
Now, I have a question for you all. Do you all have children? Have you worked with children that have the need to chew?
Oh, yes.
And
Not right now, but yes, in the past. Yep.
so what kind of things that you do to get them to chew on? I know babies have chew toys, but we're talking about older kids who have teeth.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
ones that are
No.
teething. You're talking about ones that have teeth
Yeah.
and need to chew.
So
They have. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
sorry. So the boy that I took care of who was older, he was middle elementary school, and he wanted to chew on everything. He would sit there on his sleeve. He would have his shirt chewing on anything that he could reach. He would chew the daylights out of his pencils at school. And we found, so online on Amazon, they have these great, I don't know exactly what they call them, but we called them chewy toys because we didn't want him to be chew toys because that sounds like a dog's toy. But we called them his chewy toys, and he could chew on them to his heart's content, like with full teeth, and they didn't like break down. And he would sit there and
Was it like a long
so one of them was a triangle, one of them looked like a Lego, and one of them was a circle with like nubs coming off of it. So he could sit there and he could chew. And I mean, at one point, I sanitized them every day for him. I at one point was like trying to chew on it and see if it would break down. And I don't know what grade of silicone it was made out of, but it was not breaking down under a dollar.
yeah.
So this thing was amazing. And they got them on Amazon. The behavioral therapists and the occupational therapists recommended them. And those satisfied his need to chew in the home.
Sorry, guys.
And he, when he was at school, he had special permission in his IEP to chew gum because he needed to chew. And if he didn't have something to chew, he had to ask the teacher for a piece of gum when he needed to chew. And if the teacher saw him chewing on something, she would ask him, "Do you need a piece of gum?" And she would then give him gum. And mom bought like cases upon cases of gum and just sent them to school and said, "Just give him gum whenever he needs gum." And the doctors okayed it, and they put it in his IEP. And the gum possibly saved him from being held back, I think, 3 years in a row, because the gum was the catalyst for him to focus on something. He would be sitting there and he'd be doing his work while he's chewing. I mean, he chewed like a cow with his mouth open. It was kind of gross, but it got the job done. It got him to the place where he needed to be to get his work done, to focus on his classwork. And I have, it's funny is not just the chewing, but the need for certain sounds. I actually have a friend whose son does better when there's like background noise. And
my son does that.
Yeah.
So he had a teacher in school that was awful, like mean, and just, oh, he had the worst attitude about him. And then he goes, oh my God, a light bulb just went off. And he goes to his desk, and when he's doing a test, he starts tapping on his desk. The teacher starts tapping on his desk. And the kid focuses 10 times better and gets his work done so much faster because the teacher is standing there tapping on his desk, literally tap, 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 with like a pencil eraser. So it's not making a loud noise, but it's just enough for him to be able to focus on what he's doing because he has that sound in the background.
Yeah, for sure.
I
For
can't
sure.
tell you how many times I have been called from my son's school because when he's taking tests, he has dyslexia.
Yep.
And he learned all of his work to a beat.
Yep.
And he would sit there and tap this pencil on the desk. Everybody's taking a test. His head is bopping, pencil's going. Teacher's calling me like, your son is driving me crazy. I said, are you taking a test? He said, yes. I said, that's how he learns. But that same son has 3 degrees now. So
Yep.
Wow.
I was just like, okay, this was the son that everybody told me, oh, well, he's going to be at home all the time. You know, he's, special needs. He's got this, this is wrong with him. And he found a way to overcome all of that stuff, to learn, and became a track star in high school on top of all of that.
That's awesome.
Now,
Good job.
he's sharing, he's at a college and he's a student advisor. And I think personally that's the best job for him because I know that he can share his personal story with other young people who come through college and everybody's looking at them like, oh, they ain't gonna make it. No, because they learn differently and some teachers don't take the time to figure out how their students learn. This is how I teach and this is it. And if you can take it or leave it.
Actually, one of my friends who is watching right now, she's talking about her son in the comments. I've known her son since he was a tiny little boy, a little toddler, and he's autistic, and he's the most amazing kid. I think he's in high school now, but Lavette, please correct me if I'm wrong. But he is the most talented, the most amazing, wonderful kid. And I feel like most people might not even know he's autistic unless you say, oh, he's autistic, or, oh, I'm autistic, because he's so smart and he's so talented and he strives to do so well. And he has kind of found his stride, but he also does the tapping because that's how he functions. He's in 10th grade. And so that's how he processes and that's how he succeeds.
I see what you're talking about now because I wasn't getting her comments until now.
Yeah.
But I don't know if either one of you all or anyone in the audience, I don't know if you all watched The Voice.
I've heard it, yeah.
This season, there is a guy on there. He's he's a high functioning, I think he has Asperger's, but he is on The Voice. You can look, or should I say, I can look at him and tell by the way he doesn't focus all the time, the way his eyes go and, and he's hyper. I can look at him and tell there's something going on there because I've worked with so many different special needs children. Yep. But in the backstory, when I first saw it, in the backstory, when they talked about him being on the spectrum, I was like, I knew it. I knew he was. So it takes, like I said, it takes a special person when you know. And nobody has to tell you, but you don't have to tell everybody else that you know.
Yep.
But it takes a special person to recognize those things. Let me see. Let me go back. Okay, so Liz
about the chewing
says they simply don't listen to anyone. The saddest part is that parents don't have patience with them. Also, the mom doesn't have to tell me how I can help them. I keep asking her what I can do, and she always says,
Let you know soon.
I will,
Mhm.
I guess it was, I will let you know soon.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
it's hard when parents are in denial to help children.
Yep. Oh yes.
I've been with kids whose parents are in denial, and it's
Mhm.
hard to help them on a limited, okay, so I'm the nanny, I am not your child's therapist. I don't know what else may be going on other than what I recognize.
Yep.
Yeah.
But what I do know is what I can do and what I'm figuring out by observation, I will try to help your child, even if
Mhm.
they're in denial. I will give them the attention or the non-attention that they need
For
uh,
sure.
when
Yeah,
it
definitely.
when it's called for. So if you're noticing these things, please talk to the parents,
Mhm.
approach them with a gentle. Don't go up and say, "I think something wrong with your child." That
Yep.
ain't it. That ain't it. That's a
That's
quick
why
way
that's
to
why I
catch you fired.
suggested
Observation.
the that's why I
Observation.
suggested that, hey, I've noticed say little Tommy is doing this, and this. I'm
Mhm.
wondering if that's something we need to talk to the pediatrician. Like, I just approach it in the most gentle way possible, not saying, hey, this is wrong with your kid. Talk to the pediatrician. I say, hey, have you noticed lately that Tommy's doing ABC? Have you noticed that at all? Because I'm kind of
Mhm.
concerned and it seems to be more consistent. And it's something we may want to talk to the pediatrician about. I literally always defer to the flippin' pediatrician. Can we talk to the pediatrician? Can we talk to the pediatrician? It's constantly, hey, if there's something going on, it's something we need to talk to the pediatrician about. I mean, I'm not saying
Mhm.
that all day, every day at every job, but if
Right.
there's something that's concerning enough to bother me, and I have a very high threshold for what bothers me, but if it's
Right.
something that is concerning enough to bother me, it should be bothering the parents and it should be brought up to the parents if they're not noticing it. I worked for a family that I would work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 6 days a week, and they didn't see their kid awake except on one day a week, and they had a nanny for that day as well. And I was like, do you even know who your child is? And, he had some minor underlying issues. And at one point, I was like, listen, I need to have a sit down conversation with you. I've noticed some things going on, and I'd really like to speak to you about this. And, I addressed my concerns. They talked to the pediatrician about their concerns with it. And finally, there was like a resolution. But I mean, it went on for maybe 7 or 8 months before I was like, stop. We need a meeting. I need to talk to you, and I never see you except when I'm leaving and you're leaving and then I'm leaving and we're ships passing in the night. We need to talk. So,
Mhm.
I advocate for the kids whenever possible, whenever it
Yeah.
is necessary. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I've noticed this. I think we need to talk about this with the pediatrician.
Mhm.
Can we set up a meeting with them?
Yep.
And it
And
may
that
be, oh no, we're not ready for that, or I don't think it's that big of a deal, and you table it for a couple of months. If it's something concerning enough, maybe a month or two. If it's something less concerning, maybe 6 months, and then you revisit it if it's still ongoing. And you
Yeah.
kind of have to defer to the parents because you're not their parent. But if you advocate for the kids and you say, hey, listen, this is still happening 6 months down the road, I think it's time to talk to the pediatrician. I've never had a parent not listen to me at that point. If I've brought up a concern a couple of times and then, I wait 6 months down the road and I'm like, hey, listen, this is still happening. We need to talk to the pediatrician. I have never not had a parent say, okay, let's set up a meeting. They've
Mhm.
always listened, which thank goodness.
Well, I always document everything.
Hmm.
If I'm going in and I'm noticing things, I document it. I keep a notebook, even if mom and dad don't want the communication, I document it. So when they finally say, okay, let's have this meeting, let's go talk to the pediatrician or whatever, I can say, well, on this date at this time, he did this. On
Yep.
this date, on that time, he did that. And it's a pattern. And if I can show them that it's a pattern that's going on and it happens around the same time every day, or at certain things are conditions and it's happening. Okay, so if I go in the bathroom and he has a fit every time we go in the bathroom, there's something in the bathroom that's bothering him. I don't know what's going on in the bathroom. Now, that's just an example, but I write it down at what time and all this so that
For
I can
sure.
have documentation when we go to the pediatrician. Another suggestion is don't tell them they need to talk to a therapist. The quickest way to just like, because therapist means my child has a problem and he needs therapy.
Yep.
Pediatrician,
I always say
that's my child's
pediatrician.
doctor. I can go talk to my child's doctor.
Yep.
And the doctor, when the doctor tells you you need to go see a therapist, that's his job.
Yep.
When you tell them we need to go see a therapist, that ain't your job.
Yeah.
Don't overstep your bounds. If you see something going on, talk to the pediatrician.
For sure.
Can we discuss this with the pediatrician? And even if I've had parents, when I go to the pediatrician with them, and the doctor says, "Is this your nanny?" And the nanny says, and I say yes, and they ask me questions, and I look to mom. I see, and she said, "Go ahead, answer." Either I can answer the doctor or no, you better not say anything. So I still ask for permission, get consent from them to even talk to the pediatrician, because that's their child, not my child. Even though I feel like it's my child sometimes, because I take care of it, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, but that's not my child. So I still, even if you go to the pediatrician with them, you still have to ask permission, unless they have given you permission. Now, if you notice some stuff that I forget, please tell the pediatrician so we won't forget anything. That's when I step in and say, well, did you ask about this? What about this? And what about that? He's doing this or she's doing that. And that's when the pediatrician can say, well, we'll do this, 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 and this. So
I love when I get to the pediatrician and the pediatrician asks if I've noticed anything, and I go, hold on, let me scroll through my notebook and let me tell you what I've noticed in the last 6 months. That is the most entertaining thing. I've actually had pediatricians. One pediatrician in particular, he actually used to do segments on the news here in Boston. But he pulled me aside and he goes, I am so impressed that you kept these notes on someone else's kid. I'm like, well, I'm like an extra parent for them. I'm their extra set of eyes. When they can't have their eyes on their kids, somebody has to have their eyes on him.
Right.
And I'm making sure that I am documenting what I can document for myself, so I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking to the parents. And then I can also bring that resource with me to a pediatrician appointment or with me to an evaluation when they say, hey, we have questions for the parents. What are you noticing? If the parents aren't with the kid, except, when they're sleeping, they're not going to say anything. They're, I don't know, ask the nanny. And so then I can bring back my very thick notebook and go through and say, well, this is what I've noticed this day. This is what I've noticed that day. And this is when this behavior started. This is when that behavior started. And sometimes you don't notice a pattern unless you write it down. If you write it down, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, boom, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you have 3 or 4 weeks and you can look back and say, oh, every single day he did X, she did Y. Oh, that's a pattern. Wow, I didn't notice that before because I didn't have it written down. I have it written down. Now I'm noticing a pattern.
Yeah.
Right. Now, it is now 8:00. Any closing remarks, ladies, before we go?
I just say, just be really patient, and just every child is different as well, because like the 3-year-old that I have and the teenager, obviously because of their age, but also because we've been talking about different sensory issues, and even if they have the same sensory issue, like children are individuals. So just as nannies, we are able to be adaptable, and like Sarah and Angela mentioned, not all kids that have sensory processing disorder are autistic. Now, they can be, because of autism, sensory kind of goes with it.
Oh yeah,
but
goes with the territory.
Goes with it, but I have met kids that it's just sensory. They have no autism. They're just like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't want to. And if they're young enough, like the 3-year-old, he couldn't really communicate. Like he would just scream because he's like, "Blah," and then you're like, well, what don't you like, and that's kind of thing. But that's just from me personally.
And
Yes, Sarah.
yes, so I just want to quickly touch on the fact that there are different kinds of sensory processing issues.
Mhm.
So there's one kid that's over responsive to things and he craves less input. And then
Yeah.
there's the kid who's under responsive and craves more input. And then,
Mhm.
so there's kind of that like in between that crave sensory input constantly. So they need flashing lights. So I had one boy who had a flashing like a strobe light in his room, and when he needed that input, he would push the button and turn the strobe light on, and he would sit there and his eyes were closed, but he could see that flashing light through his
Right.
eyelids, and he got that input, and it and he could focus and he could function once he had that input. So there's
Mhm.
all different kinds of sensory seekers, those who seek less, those who seek more, and
For
those who
sure.
just seek this complete sensory input. Like they need that sensory input all the time. So,
Mhm.
you have to feed them their sensory diet, so to speak. Feed their mind or feed their brain the sensory diet that they need. And by sensory diet, I mean if they need that strobe light to calm them down, give them the strobe light to calm them down. If they need pressure input, proprioceptive input, give them their proprioceptive input, give them their pressure input. Sometimes a kid needs a hug and they need that nice squeeze of a hug to calm them down. I had one boy who was just when you gave him a nice tight squeeze, or you rolled him up like a burrito in a blanket.
Mhm.
And so you have to kind of read the child and read what they need, and sometimes it's trial and error. Work with the kid, see what the kid needs, and try and give the kid what they need
For
sensory
sure.
wise.
Okay. Now that we're at the end of our program, I will again say we are not doctors. We are not therapists. We are nannies and we work with children who have sensory processing disorders. And like Sarah and Carrie said, every child is not the same. Every child has different needs. And even if two children can be diagnosed with the same thing and have totally different needs, it
Yep.
don't
Yep.
base it on, don't, put them all in a bubble and lump them together.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own little individual bubbles, those little bubbles that you blow, and all those, it has one little circle, and you get like 50, you blow, and it's like 10, 15 different bubbles come out.
Yep.
That's how children are. It's
Yep.
one symptom, one diagnosis, but 15, 20 different things that every child needs. It from that one little diagnosis, that one little disorder. So don't lump everybody in the same little bubble, because there's a lot going on in there that they need besides that one little thing. So now I will say this: next month, within the next 2 months, I will be doing a special needs webinar with the U.S. Nanny Association,
Yep.
and we will have people who are well versed, well educated, and have worked with that are, what is it, ABA? I think that's what it's called.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. So we will do that. So please, I will post it on my page. I will post it on Ask the Nanny, and it will be posted on the U.S. Nanny Association page. So be sure to be looking out for that. And this Thursday, I will be hosting a webinar with the U.S. Nanny Association, and we will be talking about how to help children who are grieving through grief. This is a very sensitive time of the year,
Yeah.
and children are very sensitive. It's not just adults. Children grieve too. They just do it differently. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it.
Yeah.
and they need it. They need you to notice that they're grieving, because sometimes they don't know how to tell you, I'm grieving.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just act out. So don't think little Johnny just acting out. Go somewhere and sit down. Something may be seriously wrong with little Johnny. He may be grieving. So
Mhm.
join me Thursday night, 7 o'clock, U.S. Nanny Association page, and we will be talking about helping children who are grieving. Now, next Monday, da, 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 which is the 23rd,
Third.
I'm going to have a special Christmas show.
Woo.
You might not want to miss that. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you, ladies, for joining me, and thank you for
You're
sharing your
welcome.
experience with us. And thank you all who joined us, everyone who watched us on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your input. I hope you all learned something. I know I did. I love it when I bring special guests on, because I'm always learning. And that is my purpose for bringing these Facebook Lives to you, so that we can all learn together.
Thank
For sure.
you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And we will see you all next week.
Yay.